relax. We're going to get back to cartoons and toys soon enough. But today, something just as important from the Gen Experience, the sitcom. But first, to all of you wonderful souls that wished me well due to my hand surgery, it's healing well, but I do feel grotesque as I'm disfigured for life. That aside, back to sitcoms, or more importantly, the sitcom theme song, where they weren't just catchy, but they were feel-good anthems that had you high on life, like me. I'm Victor, and straight out of the Gen Experience, September meant the new fall TV schedule. Hearing those familiar and recognizable theme songs were like welcoming back an old friend. The best theme songs made you feel good, and they didn't need lyrics to do it. Since theme songs are basically extinct today, hop aboard my time machine to the best instrumental show intros that filled our homes with optimism and reminded us life was good.
Hello?
Bob Newhart, rest his soul, got his first TV series started on the right foot. A cheery montage of his commute to and from work each day, accompanied by the sounds of Patrick William in a brassy, big band-style jazz piece that was not only fitting for the time period, but optimistic. Reminiscent of the Vince Guaraldi Trio and his Peanuts music, hearing Bob's intro always felt like starting a brand new morning with all the possibilities ahead and a new day at work where anything can happen. And with a show like this, probably would. From 1972 to 78, the Bob Newhart Show kicked off with this familiar melody, only changing between seasons by evolving from orchestra to a more rock band spirit, incorporating subtle funk additions common of the era in later seasons to greet us each week, but sadly scrapping the phone ring. The opening images also changed as the life of the Hartleys changed, Emily's job, moving apartments, etc. No matter the visuals, Bob's theme was certainly the therapy we needed winding down on a weekday evening. And it seemed Nick at Night knew just how important the theme, known as Home to Emily, was to its loyal viewers, and honored it with a hysterical parody.
Bob Newhart, here on Nick at Night.
The funky tones of Street Beater were composed by Quincy Jones, and that tune was the perfect start to this classic sitcom the same year as Bob's. Lamont and Fred Sanford were junk dealers outside of Hollywood, and before the lighthearted family conflicts began and ended in 23 minutes, the modern bluesy groove got us in the mood. Setting the tone for the characters and the situations to come, the theme song is one for the history books. Damn, everybody needs more harmonica. For 5 seasons, Sanford and Son's theme song got us energized, got us moving. The comedies of the era had us escape reality, and even with their topical satire on political and current events, the entertainment took the center stage, not the message. Audiences were aware it was saying a little something, while getting us to laugh at ourselves and each other once we heard the first strain of that junkyard funk at its finest. Makes you feel good, right? There is no denying the attitude set at the first strum of that bass guitar. Like Sanford and Son, the funk was present, but quickly transitioned to a brighter and jazzier piece, accompanying the typical 70s introduction of the characters, informing us of what we were in for. The slowly increasing speed of the Barney Miller theme song by Alan Ferguson and Jack Elliott was a buildup that took us from the moody streets of New York to the family of cops that populated the 12th precinct in Greenwich Village. Later seasons lightened up New York and brought us even more madcap, typical sitcom actor intros, not unlike the exaggerated ones from Galaxy Quest. This sitcom music had us tapping our toes before the action began, and was just what the doctor ordered for filling us with good vibrations during the somewhat realistic but no less humorous take on life in the city streets from 1975 through 1982. So what's your favorite so far? Do any or all of these instrumental theme songs act not only as a time machine, but a cure for the blues? My favorite, hands down, is Angela's theme, the opening music for the classic and gritty comedy Taxi from 1978 to 1983. The opening imagery tells you exactly what you need to know, while the music transports us there. A dirty garage in the late 70s that introduces us to characters who think driving a taxi is a transitional state, not a career. Well, all but one of them. Many of these characters are often just on the cusp of success or moving away from the grind, but keep finding themselves stuck in a world they try to separate from. The melancholy and yet beautiful composition of Angela's theme reminds us there's hope. Don't quit on your dreams, just work harder for them. No matter how tough things are, it is comforting to know you still have a place where people love you. That theme music by Bob James, who was often sampled in hip-hop of the 80s and 90s, matched the tone of the show, which could be simultaneously silly while tackling tough issues like drug addiction, single parenthood, obesity, animal abuse, homosexuality, racism, nuclear war, sexual harassment, grief, gambling addictions, and even PMS. Topics that are hardly taboo for any drama today. And off limits for comedies. Well, the few comedies that still exist, that is.
Night, Mr. Walters.
By the time of his second sitcom in 1982, music had changed, but Bob's delivery didn't. However, Newhart kicks off his show with some carefully placed xylophones, followed by violin that would be comfortable as chamber music as it waxes frivolously, but peaceful and calming. Kind of like living in a sleepy Vermont town, huh? This is Henry Mancini, and he's a genius, giving us everything from Pink Panther to Charlie's Angels. With Newhart, Mancini controls his organ in a way that is far less church service and more autumn breeze. That would be difficult for anyone to do with their organ. You might be surprised to know that the natural beauty in the imagery accompanying the opening sequence contains deleted footage from On Golden Pond with Hepburn and Fonda. That is not only a great Easter egg, but fitting for such a series that gave us belly laughs and heart once the theme music had faded and we'd gathered together in front of the TV to watch the antics of the Loudons and those small town characters that surrounded them. This theme effortlessly puts you in the right frame of mind.
Meow.
Funky jazz was still a mainstay, especially when it came to LA or New York City sitcom locations. In 1984, Daniel Cain and Jack Elliott created the unmistakable beat in the first measures of the theme to Night Court. Jack Elliott was half of the duo who wrote Barney Miller's theme. And you wouldn't be paying attention if you didn't notice the clear and unmistakable homage to the show's intro when listening to that of this courtroom comedy. Even the realistic visuals of New York City in the opening B-roll footage, the change in tempo, and the character introductions mirror the famous cop show that had ended 2 years earlier. Now with cops and detectives replaced with litigators and court bailiffs. Bathed in a splash of purple light on that profound beat of the title, the image communicates both the evening setting as well as the 1984 color palettes and hairstyles. R.I.P. Marky Post. Through 1992, the whimsy of the government employees and the theme of Night Court was a happy pill we looked forward to taking during the famous NBC Thursday night lineup. It's 1986, and the funk, the style of the 70s and early 80s guitar and raw sounds, had given way to synthomagnetic musical stylings of the mid-80s. Instrumental sitcom themes were very rare by this time. From Family Ties to My Two Dads, you'd be hard-pressed to find a sitcom without lyrics to their opening titles. Not even narration like Rhoda or The Odd Couple were allowed. The 80s made it clear sitcoms came with words, and instrumental was reserved for hour-long dramas instead. That is why Alf stood out, among other things. And love him or hate him, his show still embraced the instrumental theme song from a time past. Mr. Belvedere is another popular show that did it, but it's just not as memorable as the plucky tones of this outrageously ridiculous positive series, Alf. From 1986 to 1990, the theme written by Tom Kramer, And Alf Klauser, yes, the songwriter's name was Alf, who had worked on Donnie and Marie, Mary Tyler Moore, Moonlighting, and The Simpsons, was all that was necessary to set the tone and get us feeling good for the next 30 minutes. We're coming full circle here as Alf honored classic sitcoms of the 70s by incorporating Bob Newhart and some of the characters from that show into his own with a couple of references. Like I said, no matter if you found him annoying,
let me know when this gets irritating, okay? Now!
Alf still exists in pop culture today, ever present now as he was back then, delivering lighthearted fare. That is until his last episode, shocking audiences with a surprise cancellation after a season finale cliffhanger that saw our E.T. harbored by the Tanner family picked up by the feds, leaving Alf's fate in limbo, which probably made the unhappy actor playing Willie secretly satisfied. But even so, that music, you just can't help feel good, can you? As I've mentioned before in other shows, although Gen X began officially in 1965, the Gen experience for the youth of that cohort doesn't begin at midnight of that year. It wasn't until the 70s that the true experience gets started, but fortunate for everyone, reruns were a way of life. As kids, we didn't really understand the generational differences, the era of which a show was made, unless they were black and white. We didn't know if a series was current, modern, or from the olden days, except sometimes by the way they dressed, but we usually didn't think twice about it. We were lucky to have repeats of some of the best sitcoms of the mid to late 60s grow with us through the 70s and 80s. We knew them all, something that kids today wouldn't understand. Along with these great shows were memorable theme songs, intro music to their opening sequences that made us just feel good, brought an air of optimism, and kept things positive. You know the ones I'm talking about, like Bewitched from 1964. Greenfield and Keller, writing in New York's Tin Pan Alley, created the theme song of the same name after seeing the pilot episode. Choosing to go instrumental, the light orchestral arrangements with magical effects, mysterious sounds, and uplifting melodies were composed by Warren Barker and prepared for the supernatural shenanigans to come. Sadly, the Bewitched lyrics were never sung on the show. And what about I Dream of Jeannie? Zany competition to the witchcraft of Samantha, Jeannie used the magic from her lamp to reinforce the exotic samba beat filled with brass heard at the start of the show with the over-the-top exaggerated storylines. A theme song you can't help bop your head to, or choreograph an awesome floor routine with. Get Smart was another great late 60s sitcom that continued into our youth. A silly comedy that spooked spies. The music, written by Irving Savmary, made sure to incorporate that man of mystery type motif to this Mel Brooks Buck Henry sitcom. The genre's popularity spiked in the 60s, but the musical style was a go-to through the 80s for all things espionage. Meant to make us think of a serious procedural drama like Dragnet, Get Smart was smart enough to know that there was nothing further from the truth. And finally, Hogan's Heroes, an incredibly unique and smart comedy whose opening theme song clearly resonated wartime orchestration and military musicality of its era, unlike the hairstyles on every female character. That ain't the 1940s. The definite military overtones had fun juxtaposed with the serious nature of World War II atrocities. The music might have mirrored the high-stakes nature of war, but also delivered the amusement of poking fun at the enemy in every episode. There are other feel-good sitcom openings out there, so please share your favorite instrumental sitcom themes in the comments. Sitcom themes were an important part of our favorite shows that make up the soundtrack of our life during the Gen experience. I hope you liked revisiting some of my favorite instrumental sitcom themes that opened up for shows we hated to miss. These are just some of my favorites. There are those with lyrics, those with narration, and more. But those are another story. These instrumental openings never fail to spread their positivity with music and just make us feel good inside. I'd love to hear your memories listening to these sitcom intros as you got ready to enjoy your favorite shows with your family. But don't forget to look around at other great content, always AI-free, and here to help you recall, relive, and reminisce. Thanks for the like and subscribing to my channel. I hope you enjoyed the show, and until next time.